Hi there, we're working on vertex form for a quadratic. And so first things first, I recognize this is a quadratic because the exponent, the quantity raised to the second power there. Now recall f of x is a nice notation for y, saying that x controls things. Now the other part we need to recall is what is the basic form for vertex, quadratic vertex form. So we'll write that up here. I think that'll help us identify our h and our k. Now with that in mind, think about, remember with h, it's always the opposite value. And vertex is that h and k, which actually is x and y. So a -1 and my k is a -3. So that tells me that's where the vertex is for this parabola. And my a is a +1. A few things that tells me real quick and easy is that since it's a +1, it opens up. And then we talk about stretch. What does that a value do for us? Well, since it's a 1, it's a standard form for our parabola. Now let's talk about shifting. Because of this +1 on the inside, it equates to a -1 for my vertex. So it's actually shifting to the left 1 unit. And now this -3 here means it's shifting down 3. So instead of having a vertex here at 0, 0 at the origin, the vertex is actually at a -1, -3. So that's my vertex. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit more math so that I can kind of figure out how things are going to look when I graph it. And so getting started, you can use what's called an XY table. And I know my vertex passes through -1, that when x is -1, y is -3. So if I pick a couple other numbers to help me figure this out, you might want to think about -2, which would be to the left of my vertex, and 0, which would be to the right of my vertex. So just working out a couple numbers here. When x is 0, plugging that back in here, when x is 0, I get a 1 squared. 1 minus 3 is a -2. Now let's plug in this x equals -2 in here. So -2 into my formula, or my function here. So -2 plus 1 is a -1. -1 squared is a positive. 1 minus 3, a -2. So if I would go ahead and graph those additional points, this one here and this one, kind of gives me an idea of how wide and the basic form of my quadratic. So let's do that here. So this point here, when x is -2, y is -2. And when x is 0, y is a -2. And you could do a few more points so that you could get the width of your quadratic just perfect. Or you could use Desmos. Here I have the function typed in that we were working with. And as you can see, my vertex here is at -1, -3. And then you can see how wide it is with a variety of points. So going back to my document, so that's just some information you can gather. If it's in vertex form, you can quickly find the vertex, that point where the behavior of my graph changes. And you can also quickly see how much it shifts up, down, left, right, and then of course how it compares to a standard parent function. All right, it's been fun. Stay tuned for example D.